I'm Jeff Gould, America's storyteller. Sometimes bad things happen, and we ask ourselves, why did this happen? What good could possibly come out of this personal tragedy? Mary's an 8-year-old girl heading out into the summer months, and then she finds out her father has died in a farming accident. 35 years old. And following that grief comes years and years of trying to process that day. And so she finally did. She wrote a book, and the sun came up. It's available on the link on Amazon in the description below. So if you hit on that link, you'll be able to get the book. And if you want to find out more about Mary Grace Johnson, former English teacher, librarian, published author with Hope Books, and the story of tragedy that she turned into a story of hope, I think you'll really enjoy it. I'm Jeff Gould, America's storyteller. I like to interview interesting people who have interesting stories to tell. And a good story often has conflict, sometimes even has tragedy. And we ask ourselves, if something tragic happens in our lives, can anything good come out of that? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? Mary Grace Johnson has written a book about a tragedy in her life. And I don't know if she would have ever written the book if this hadn't have happened. So we will see if it's true that sometimes a blessing is a curse and sometimes a curse is a blessing. Mary Grace Johnson, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're going to talk about your book because I want to hear the whole journey. Some people are watching this, and this is the reason I wanted to talk to you. Sometimes people look at writing a book as a mysterious journey that only a few can do, and I would say just a person, and yet I want to hear how that journey works and is working for you, so people can listen to your story and say, "Wait a minute, I might be able to do that myself." So, as I'm talking to you, you're also instructing people who might be interested in going on that journey. You'll have a chance to ask me one question only. I will be grilling you mercilessly for our time together. And you can get back at me with one question and one question only. Now that we know the layout, let's do a little background on Mary Johnson. Mary,
Yes.
you've gotten the Jeopardy board, and let me pull it up here now. What was your Jeopardy question you'd like to select?
Oh, let's see. My Jeopardy question. I think it was under You Are History for $400.
Okay, you are
Please,
history
Jeff.
for $400. If you could have an honest conversation with anyone in history, who would it be?
Well, that would be Abraham Lincoln.
Oh,
And that's maybe an answer you get fairly often. But for me, I actually found out that I think he's my ninth cousin, believe it or not. Um,
what does that even mean? Ninth cousin?
I have no idea.
Whenever
My
they talk about
grandmother,
fourth removed or whatever, I never know what that means. But you are related to him somehow.
yes, somehow through my dad's side, my grandmother, his mother, used to talk all the time about how he was. I think he was her seventh or eighth, so he would be my ninth or 10th cousin on that side of the family. And there is a genealogy somewhere in the family. I'm not sure who has it, but I would like to talk to him because I just think I was actually listening to one of his speeches, or a portion of one of his speeches the other day, that was on, I can't think of the name of the show. It's Mark Levine,
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe, was talking about him and talking about how he, back even in that day, was concerned that the enemies were not abroad. They were not the other countries around the United States, but that they would actually come from within. And, not to make a political speech here, but I think he's right that a lot of things we do in our own country are hurting us. And
But
um,
one of the things I've been doing, Mary, is in this, we're celebrating the 250th birthday of the
yeah,
country. And that means I've been reading a lot of history books. And the more you read, the more you find out that this experiment we're on, this story, has been fragile right out of the gate and is
yes,
just, I mean, the founding fathers, I think they would be astonished that
oh
it made it 250 years. And I
yeah,
think people who were around in 1830 with Abraham Lincoln would say this is just not, it's not going to make it. I mean,
exactly,
look at the wars; it just simply can't stand. It's which is we have this turmoil. Uh, um, Teddy Roosevelt said something like, "Listen, it's your job to be. We need to educate our people because an educated populace can do the best job of selecting their leaders, and then leaders must be of the highest quality, right?"
right,
And yet, what are the number one complaints we seem to have in history? The population doesn't seem to know what's going on, and why are these the only people we can select as our elected officials? And so, although I do see daily calamity, I also recognize it has historically been calamitous, and you know, I guess
yeah.
right, right.
It's history repeating itself.
Right, right,
But
right, right. Yeah.
but I
Hmm.
really looked up to him because I found out that he was a big boxer, and I had not known that he used to get picked on when he
Hmm.
was a child, and
Yeah.
so he would fight his way out of things. And he was tall and lanky, but that also worked for him. I guess that
Hmm.
he was a good fighter, and they even said that they gave him credit for inventing that wrestling move that's the neck slam, I guess they call it, where they grab him around the neck and slam him down on the ground. So I thought that was really interesting. That
I know that enough guys who wrestle, and yeah, I don't know if these were official, what these matches were, but they were tussling matches, right? So maybe a combination of boxing and wrestling. And I do know, talking to wrestlers, the guys they hate wrestling are those long, lanky, grabby ones that have just tremendous grip strength. They're just really hard to wrestle because they're so long and lanky.
exactly,
And I do know that Abraham Lincoln, he kept a two-headed axe that he used to split wood with. He kept it behind the doorway in his house, even at the White House. And when people said, "You aren't a log splitter," he'd take that out and he'd hold it out arm's length. Well, try it sometime. I mean and so he was not not a heavy guy, about 165 pounds,
right.
but that real wiry strength that you see in some lanky guys that just are really really strong despite. What's your question? What are you going to ask him?
Well, what am I going to ask you?
No, no, Abraham Lincoln.
Oh,
Hey, you just can't go
I
up and say,
gotcha.
"Hey, we're related."
Yeah.
I mean, what are you're going to ask him
What would
something?
I ask him? Um, well, I mean, his family went through so much. As far as I think his wife had depression, and I think I would just ask him, you know, what it was that got him through those difficult times.
Mm.
Was it his faith? Was it something in his upbringing? Was it his family? I'd be curious to know because I know he had a lot of loss in his life as well. So,
And we'll take that opportunity. That's why you decided to write this book, right?
yeah. Well, never in my life would I've thought that I would write a picture book. I wasn't really interested in that kind of literature to write. Um, and I still have another book in me, I think. But um, I decided to write a children's book because I saw a loss that was very much like mine that happened to my daughter and her family, and I didn't feel like there was anything I could do at that time. I helped where I could, but it was like there should be something for the children something that they could use to kind of work through their grief. And if people aren't familiar with my story, it's that I lost my dad in a farm accident when I was 8 years old.
Mm.
So my brothers would have been 6, and then my sisters were 12 and 14. And so my mom was left with the 5 of us crazy kids to raise on her own. And so what had happened was in 2019, my daughter lost her sister-in-law in a car accident, and her husband was left with 6 kids.
Mm.
And they were ranging from ages probably, I think the youngest was probably 4, and the oldest was just getting ready to go off to college. And so it just kind of hit me in that moment that it was like, you know, I mean, back in my time, there weren't really any resources. I mean, you didn't go to counselors. They didn't. I don't even remember hearing about a counselor,
Mm.
what a counselor was. And so we relied heavily on our family and our community and our church family to get through that. And
So your
so
dad, how old was your dad?
he was 35.
Oh my.
Yep.
Farm accident happened during harvest or planting or what?
Yeah, just right before they were planting. Yep.
Well, now you are at that, you said 8, right?
Yes.
I'm just putting myself in that position. Now you're the kid that they whisper about at school. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then teachers, they say, well, and they don't know what to say, and you don't know what to say. And maybe kids
Right.
say smart things. Probably a few of them say stupid things, right? But probably the
Yeah.
main thing is that why are they? I wish I could just not be the focus of attention. Was that a lot of it?
You know, it happened in May,
Mm.
right over Memorial Day weekend, in fact.
Mm.
And so we were out of school. So we spent pretty much the whole summer with our cousins. We had both sets of cousins. I have a relatively, even though my family, of 5 seemed big, I only had 2 sets of cousins, and they both lived in the same town. So we spent all of our summer with them. So by fall, we did change schools because we were at a country school, came in back into town to attend school in town. And by then, I don't know that it was so much on people's minds. I
Mm.
don't remember, hearing a lot of questioning or kids remarking about it or anything like that.
I'm thinking to the number of people growing up. You didn't really talk about it, but a lot of kids didn't have parents. Not the majority, but it was always surprising how many kids had lost a parent.
Yeah.
Hmm. How long did it take you to get over that, if you ever did?
Um, I don't think I ever did. And the reason I say that is because uh, when I was a teenager, I went through a lot of anxiety and depression, and I kind of carried that into college with me. And I came to school in Sioux Falls, and so um, that was about, at that time, driving 55 or 60 on the interstate. That was about 8 hours away from where I grew up. And so, I was away from home for the first time. Um, and I think it hit me harder when I was at college. I started having some anxiety attacks, which, if you've ever had them, they're just the scariest thing. You just don't know, what's happening. I would hyperventilate and things like that. Um, and that kind of carried, I had my children and was able to raise them, but I do remember a couple of times where I would get those panic attacks every once in a while. So I don't know that I ever really dealt with it. And the reason that I think that is not only because of those, but also because um, a few years ago, I talked to a counselor. It was a counselor I'd seen before, and she came out and asked me the question. She said, "Have you ever really grieved your dad, the loss of your dad?" And it was just like the tears just poured, and it was like, we talked about him a lot, and it wasn't like the subject of him was taboo or anything. I mean, but it wasn't something that was um, really talked about in depth. We would talk about memories and things like that as we grew up and as we got older. But, you know, at the beginning, when your grief is the deepest, I found that we didn't try to talk about it because we didn't want to make it worse for our mother and for each other as well. And so I think a lot of times we tried to kind of put it aside when we were together. Um, I really credit my twin brothers for kind of keeping the whole um, of his memory alive, because they remember, even at the age of 6, they remembered the most minute details of things that my sister and I would always laugh and say, "Oh, you guys made that up." And they're, "No, no," and
Hmm.
they would
Hmm.
argue back and forth. "Yeah, we remember," and I really do think that their memories were just so sharp that at that age, and they had the benefit of um, kind of working off each other to fill in the little details of everything. And so,
Some twins are like that. They're very
oh
close,
yeah,
and
they're
that'll.
identical, and you can
Yeah.
tell.
When I will do funerals, I'll say, well, a funeral is a day of grief, and we're eventually translating to memory. So you don't want to remember the day that somebody died. You want to remember the life that they lived.
Yeah,
But in the haste, in the pressures of life, sometimes you just got to jump over that grief or feel like you need to and just go right to the memory. And how interesting that that question off the cuff years later made you go, wait, you know what? Maybe I should just cry right now. Tears are
yeah,
interesting. They have just like if you get a cut and it bleeds to heal the wound, so tears can heal the wound of a soul.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's right.
Was writing this book also kind of healing?
It was healing, but it was also difficult because it brought up a lot of things that I learned about myself. For one thing, um, I learned a lot about my anxiety and depression, and why that kind of came about. Um,
And do you think that came from this?
I do. I
Hmm.
think because I kept so much inside for so long. Um, and I think too, I I really thought I thought in my mind that I had a real sense of control over things that happened, whether it was raising my children or getting a job or doing this or doing that. I always thought I had this false sense of control that um, I think because I felt like I needed to be able to control something. I couldn't control what happened to him or what life brought us after that, but maybe I could control what happened now. And so it wasn't uncommon for my oldest sister did it too, for us to say, "Oh, be careful, when your children are getting ready to leave, be careful, don't drive too fast, watch out for this, watch out for that." And I know it bothered my daughter a lot because she was like, "Do you think I'm not going to try to be careful?"
Hmm.
But I said, I think it was more just for me getting that off my chest, that I
Uh-huh.
can say,
Yeah.
"But I gave you a warning at
Right,
least,"
right, 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 right.
if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. It's like you go to a ball game and you wear your hat backwards and inside out. You think as a fan that somehow you can project, and in the
Right.
same way, bad things happen. You say, be careful. Be careful on the drive in.
Yeah.
And I noticed this too. Whenever somebody has, I'll just say cancer. Well, did they smoke? Well, why do we ask that? Because we're looking for some sort of control in the outcome.
Yeah.
They were in an accident. Were they wearing a seatbelt? And a lot of it is just us trying to say, well, okay, so I wear a seatbelt, so I never will get it. And it's just sort of
Right.
trying to control what is uncontrollable.
Yes.
And I think about that when I see bumper stickers that say like "World's Greatest Mom" or something like that, and I say, I don't want to say it this way, but I guess I will. It doesn't. You don't have control over that, right?
Exactly.
When I was a lifeguard, oh man, we had to look out over Weaver Lake, and the sun was setting, and you could see the haze. And I was like a kid. I was like 18, and I thought I can't keep attention. I can't keep 100% focus. It's too much. And I've still thought since I am so glad that nobody drowned on my watch,
Right.
because I would have 100% blamed myself, even though
Yeah.
it is impossible to have 100% vigilance in this life.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. It really taught me that I had to surrender that control to God, because I couldn't do it myself, and I couldn't keep anything from happening that did happen, throughout my life. So it's a lesson, even at my age, that I'm still learning. Unfortunately, I guess, it's good to keep learning in our lives, but you hate to have to learn those same lessons over again and again
My
and
mother
again.
would say, "Too soon old and too late schmott." And I think, yeah, you have a German background. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about, right?
yeah.
They have those kinds of German sayings. Hmm. And so, talk a little bit about this book. It's a picture book. It's designed for kids. What is it exactly?
It's basically a story of I start out just kind of with my main character. I use different names in the book just because I thought um, my family, our names were kind of old fashioned, and I wanted to bring it up to date a little. So the main character is Lucy. That's
Hmm.
me. And um, just kind of what they enjoyed doing on the farm, and special things that they did. And then I go into the day that we found out that he had been in this farm accident where he died, and how how my sister handled it. The first thing she did was, I remember her getting it down on her hands and knees and saying, or on her knees saying, "Daddy, God, please take Daddy to heaven." And I remember just the flurry of activity because our grandparents were there to give us that news. And we kind of just had to pack bags and then go into town, where we stayed with our cousins and our grandparents. We had to kind of split up, but luckily they all lived on the same street as well in a small town. And so there were a lot of things that I think God prepared us for when that happened. One thing that happened, and I mentioned that in the book, is as we were getting ready to take lunch out to my dad in the field, we had a flat tire. And so my mom and my oldest sister were trying to change that flat tire while we were sitting around and waiting for them to get that done. And once they had it changed, we were all going to hop in, and it went flat again. That happened twice. And if that hadn't happened, we might have gone out and found him. And but as we did pull out of the yard, my grandparents came up in a car behind us and stopped us. And That's when we found out the news. So the rest of the book is kind of what it was like going through that grief, as an 8-year-old, the questions that I had um, about what was happening, and then um, what it was that got us through those days. I talk about how our community came around behind us, about how our family was there for us,
Hmm.
keeping us in their homes for the rest of that summer through the farm sale. Um,
The farm
and
sale, they sold the farm.
well, we didn't own that particular farm. We were renting at the time, but we had machinery, we had livestock, all of that. Um, yeah, they had a farm sale,
So
and
I imagine it's a fairly beautiful spring day. Summer's just starting. You got your whole summer ahead of you.
yeah,
You'll go out, and it's the outdoors, and it's the summer on the farm, a
yeah,
summer of adventure. And then this news happens, and your
yeah,
life changes in a way that almost seems like it's a dream
yeah,
that you're going to wake up from,
or a nightmare.
or a nightmare that you're going to wake up from.
Yeah.
And so when you lost your dad, then you lost your home, I guess. Is that right? You had to move to a different place?
We tried to stay out at the farm one night after,
Uh,
I suppose this was probably, several weeks after it had happened. And there was a terrible storm that night, and it almost seemed tornadic. And so we were in the basement and we were all scared to death. And I just remember looking at my mom's face, and I could tell that, as much as she tried to hide it, that she was scared too. And after that, I think we just decided we weren't gonna be able to stay out there. And and I think maybe we knew that all the time because she had to go to work. She had been a stay-at-home mom, and she had to get a job. She had to go to work.
what'd she
Um,
do?
she went to work at the bank to start with, the bank in town. My uncle helped her, to get that job, and she worked there for quite a number of years. And then she went over to work at the school for the superintendent, which is where she was when she retired. So
Hmm.
many, many years.
Did she
But
ever marry again?
no, I always have kind of felt bad about that. But, she was so busy raising 5 kids and working. I don't know when she'd even had time to date. And I always feel bad about that because I think, but, when I ask her, she always says, I just really wasn't interested. And so I think she had found the love of her life, and she just really didn't have the interest at that point. So,
She's still alive.
yeah, she's 92.
Hmm.
She'll be
Hmm.
93 in October.
What do you like about her?
Oh, what isn't there to like about her? um, she's such a kind person. And one thing I always remember is that she always sacrificed something that she would have maybe liked to have done, or something that, she could have spent her time on, to be there for us, for our activities. I remember at one point, um, I had an opportunity to go on a trip with uh, a group of, it was a singing group from our area, named after the lady who launched it. And it was kids all from around our area of small towns. And I had an opportunity to go on a trip with them. And I knew we couldn't afford it. Um, and I knew the lady that was in charge of the group had even called her and said, "Can't she go? Can't she go? We can help out." Well, mom didn't want that. And so somehow I think we had we were on just a small acreage outside of town. And I think basically when they sold that hay, I think that's what she ended up using for me to go on the trip. So she was always sacrificing things that I mean, when was her time? I'm sure once we all left the house, she was probably like, "Hooray, now's my time."
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
just, she would do anything for anybody, and
And your brothers
and
and sisters, did they? I mean, it's a calamity for everybody. Everybody handles it
yeah,
differently. Did they come
yeah.
through it okay?
Um, yeah, I know they all have their scars. My oldest sister, she's passed away now. She had ovarian cancer, and
Hmm.
she was 51, I think, when she passed away.
Oh my.
And yeah, and so she kind of took a lot of the responsibility um, for taking care of us kids.
How much older
And
was she? What was she?
well, she was 14 when he passed, and
And you were
so
8.
and I was 8.
So she became an adult at the age of 14.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she did. And she took care of us a lot of times, when she got her license, then she would have to drive us places and things like that. Um, and I know taking care of the four of us was not the
Not on her
easiest thing
agenda.
that she had ever
Yeah.
wanted to do.
Can't
But
wait to do this. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
she took responsibility for all of us. And then my second sister, she actually has ovarian cancer as well. It's a genetic mutation that, well, all three of us girls have it. And then I have uh, three cousins, I believe, that were diagnosed with it as well.
Does this
And
mean that you're going to get this, Mary?
no, I did preventative surgery. So I had a double mastectomy, I had a hysterectomy. So my chances like anyone else.
Hmm.
But before we had the genetic testing done, my oldest sister had it done, and she had to go through a whole battery of tests for them to identify what gene it was. Then once they identified that, they could test us for just that gene. And so, and the men in our family could also carry it. We were pretty sure that it had to come from my dad's side of the family, but he only had one brother, and
Hmm.
his dad had one brother, and so it might have come down through the male DNA, I guess, all the
It
way
didn't come
down.
from Abraham Lincoln, did it?
No, I don't think so. Not that I know of.
That would be extra tragic somehow, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
So, were you just hanging around the house one day and says, I think I'll write a book? What was the process that made you say, I want to write this down?
um,
I know you talked about it affected your daughter, and maybe was
yeah,
that the catalyst that made you think maybe, wait a minute, this isn't just me. Other people might be suffering. Maybe I should write this down. Was that the process?
that was pretty much the process. I
Mm-hmm.
think, I had never really, I always told my students as a teacher, I always told my students in English class, you're all writers. You're all writers. You all have a story in you. And yet,
You
I
never thought
really
about it
didn't.
for yourself.
No, I didn't do it myself. The only thing I did was to model it, on the whiteboard if I needed to. I'd model, putting a story together or something, but I never did it myself. I did some journaling, but that was about it. And then one day, after this had happened to my daughter and her husband's family, um, I thought, maybe this is my reason to do this now. And I kind of fought against doing it as a picture book, but I thought, what would help the most, and that's kind of what I decided.
Who did the pictures? Did you do
So
the pictures?
no, the publishing company, they hired illustrators to do the pictures. So they don't list the illustrator's name on the book. Um, I'm not sure why, except that I think they might have had a pool of illustrators, and maybe it wasn't just one illustrator who
Hmm.
did. I'm not really sure about that, but um, the the pictures are beautiful. they aren't exactly, everything's not exactly as it was in my story, but that's kind of the publisher's
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
way of doing things. But the story itself is mine. The words are mine. Um, some of the suggestions for the pictures are mine. The main character is a little girl with kind of reddish auburn hair. That was me.
Mm.
I had auburn hair.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I wanted to make it as much like that story as I could. Um,
But maybe not place it in time. Like
right.
there's no retro feel to it. It's just a storybook, right?
Some of the pictures, like there's a tractor, and the tractor is an older tractor, and that's fine because that's what he was driving.
Yeah.
And so I think most of that was just the rest of it. I don't think you could tell that it was any specific period in time.
So you're in the middle of launching this now. Is that
Yeah.
what? I mean, is it like you write it and hand it off to somebody, and it's like a political campaign? They just run away with it, or are you
Well,
supposed to do other things? Or what are you supposed to do in this?
it's kind of feels like that. I had no idea the work that goes into a launch if you want to do it right,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get a new author's book. And I've done collaborative books with other writers, but this is the first one I've done myself.
Mm.
And so I actually have a friend who's in charge of the launch, and she's kind of taking care of like all the visuals and the the main promotion of it. But then I still, on my end of things, am putting it out there. But to me,
By the way, have you said the name of this book yet?
I probably haven't. I have a picture here, but it's going to be backwards on your
No,
screen.
it is. There it is. I can read it. And the sun came up.
And the
The
sun
true,
came up.
yeah, the
Yep.
true story of grief and hope. And
Yep.
the sun came up. And by the way, the link to her book on Amazon is in the description below. So the link to her book
Right.
and the sun came up is on the description below, and you should order. I think you should get 100 copies.
I
I
think
think
that
you
would
should.
be
I think you
good.
should get 100 copies and distribute those. I'm just going to give this out as a thought. It would be kind of a nice book to send kids home with for the summer, right? I mean, I don't know. I
Mm,
mean, they need picture books. They
yeah.
need to read during the summer. They should read.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that they should be entertained, but also that they should be taught some truisms, right?
Right. Right.
And I'm assuming the truism in your book is that bad things happen and then good things happen after bad things. Is that
Right.
fair to say?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, my title, "And the Sun Came Up," um, that kind of came from the idea that when after we had found out that he had passed on, um, and we drove into town, I looked out the car window and I noticed there were people on the street just standing there talking and doing their shopping. And I just remember thinking to myself, how can they just be so normal in their activities? Don't they know what just happened? What happened to my family? Because I mean, there were a lot of us in our little small community, and I just couldn't believe that they were just going about their days like nothing had happened. And I kind of realized after time went on that even though I was grieving, that every day the sun would still come up. And even after a rainy day or a hard day, the sun would come up,
Mm.
and it kind of took me from grief into hope. Um, I knew my dad was going to be in heaven because I knew what he believed and what my parents had modeled to us. And interestingly, I'll share this with you because this, I think, had a lot to do with getting me through this time. And that was that we went to the Baptist church, and we Baptists, we like to
Amen.
sometimes,
Yeah.
you bet. No, that's more Pentecostal,
Okay.
but
All right.
no,
All right. All right.
we Baptists, And I shouldn't say it's not just Baptists, but our pastor would always give the gospel message. And at the end of the service, he would say, if you want to accept Christ into your life, or if you want to ask Jesus into your heart, then, I'd like for you to come forward and, as a show of what
Hmm.
you want to do in your life. And I don't know if that's common as much anymore. It was a big thing for Billy Graham, of course. That's how he did a lot of
Hmm.
his
Hmm.
crusades. But when I was 7, well, no, I guess I would have turned 8 already. In November of the year before he passed, I actually sat and listened to that pastor's sermon. I don't know that I did that every week, but I did that week. And much to the shock and amazement of my parents, I got up and went forward.
Hmm.
And I told him I wanted to do that. And so my dad actually got to see me get baptized before he passed on as well. And I think having that belief system and that faith and that hope um, in Jesus was what really truly got me through my entire life. I mean, of course, like anybody, I'm human. I still had times of the anxiety and the depression and
Hmm.
things, but I always knew where my hope was. And just working with kids and letting them be able to talk to an adult about what they're going through, or draw, or journal, or color a picture, to work through that grief. Um, it's so important. And so I actually did, and I'm not doing this to sell it, but I thought this was important. I created a journal um, as
Hmm.
well. I
Hmm.
don't know if you can
Hmm.
see that, that
Sunlight
goes
for the
with the
soul.
book.
Yeah, yeah.
And I called
And
it
that's part of
Sunlight.
the Amazon link, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
part of the link. And I tried to put things in there that would interest kids, everything
Hmm.
from just talking while they're doing a tic-tac-toe, or
Hmm.
coloring a picture, to um, actually having
And what age?
questions.
You're a teacher, you say. Uh,
Right.
and what age do you teach?
Well, I taught middle and high school
Hmm.
kids. I spent 1 year with kids in an elementary library before I decided that I didn't think that was for me,
Hmm. Hmm.
interestingly. Um, but I, I'm hoping, actually, I know that this is already helping kids, because um, I have been in touch with people that I'd never even heard of
Oh
before,
my.
who've contacted me because they saw it somewhere, or through a friend of a friend on the launch team, and said, I've already pre-ordered your book. Um, I got the journal today because I'm going to give it to this child who just lost their mother
Hmm.
to cancer.
Hmm.
Or um, there's another family that they just lost a brand new baby that was stillborn. And the friend thought that the book would even be good for them, um, because they had just lost a sibling. And so it's interesting how all these things are coming out of the woodwork, things that you probably hear about all the time, but you don't think about, how can I help that person?
Hmm.
And so I'm seeing that this is already hopefully having an effect on those families. And that's the whole reason I wrote it. Um, as an author, you don't make any money unless
Sad.
you're, well, maybe you do, Jeff, but
Oh, well, you can
as a,
see you can see my mansion behind me here. Actually, I put this is just a curtain, so you can't see the pool and the sauna and the bowling alley. I've got
oh
those
yeah,
covered. You know how
yeah,
that is. I don't
I
want to
know.
talk to you about.
Well, and I knew that I would be spending more money than I would make, but that's not the reason I did it.
Hmm.
I knew that I had a story that needed to be told.
Hmm.
And I think that's true of everyone. They may not think that it's something they want to write down, but like you know, America's Storyteller.
Oh my. Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell stories, you can share it with somebody that it might help. And for me, it just ended up to be in written form because I thought that that was maybe the best way to get it across.
Well, I suppose you maybe hear authors say it, but you can agree with it. Why do you write a book? Because you feel like you have to, right? And it's
Yeah,
the creative process that is its own form of compensation.
that's
And
right.
who reads it? Well, somebody reads it.
Yeah,
And who reads it? Well, the person who was supposed to read it. And who knows what God will do with that, right? We
yeah,
don't. We don't. We don't. That's not for us to know.
exactly.
So, let's say that you could. This is your virtuoso question.
Oh boy.
You can either master any language, and I mean speak it like a native, or you can play any instrument, just beautiful. What's it going to be?
Well, that was a tough one because I had something for both of those. I think if I was going to learn, I actually did learn some Spanish, but I'm definitely not fluent. Um, but I would really like to learn German because my grandparents spoke some German. In fact,
Mhm.
when we'd have family meals for a holiday, my grandpa would say the prayer before the meal in
Mm,
German.
mm,
And I never knew what he was saying, but amen.
yeah.
And so it's kind of like that's a language I would have liked to have learned.
So you'll
It's
speak
hard.
German and you'll scan through those foreign language films, and when you see the German film, you'll mute the subtitles, and you'll be
Right.
and you're at an airport somewhere in some town, and you hear some people speaking in German, and you just go over and say "Ausgezeichnet, meine Liebe," whatever. And I just didn't
Oh
know
my
where to
goodness.
go. Yeah, yeah, there you go. No.
Well, you're pretty well versed in it, it
Well,
sounds
I
like.
had some. I had some German in high school. I do know. I
Okay.
do remember this. Du siehst lustig aus, du mit deiner Sonnenbrille, which means you look ridiculous in your sunglasses. So, just so you know, you write that down. You may need
That's a
that.
good one.
That'll be good. Zwei Bier bitte. That means two beers, please. Some buddies of mine who did traveling over there would say that.
Well,
But
once in a while my grandpa would say something, but then when I'd ask mom what that meant, she'd say, "Never mind."
yes, yes, I remember
So,
those days. Yeah. So, you have 24 hours. You can spend it anywhere you want. And where are you going to go for 24 hours?
oh, that I that question I would have to say I would love to spend 24 hours with my dad again as an adult. Um, which would be kind of weird because
You'd be older than him.
yeah, and his memories would be different than mine, but if I could talk to him for, even as a kid, I'd go back and spend 24 hours with him because he was so much fun. I mean, he would make up little songs, or he was always singing. He just he loved music, and he had a good sense of humor where he would make up these funny little names. And just the other day, somebody from our past who grew up in the same town, um, was older than me, had contacted me and said that he had seen my book out. And he said, my dad was good friends with your dad, and he really was upset, when he passed away. And I said, well, I'd really like to talk to you and hear some stories, because I'm always just like hungering for stories about that, because my memory is just, a lot of it is gone except for kind of some main things that I did with my dad. And he said, call me anytime. Well, I would like my dad to know, that what I've done in my life, and how how much he affected my life. Um, and, even in the short time we were together, people will say, well, you probably don't even remember him, at that age. Or even to my brothers, they'll say that. And it's like, oh man, no, it's like amplified. It's like you hold on to every memory that you can as long as you can, because
What
you
was his
don't,
name? What's his name?
well, it was Robert, but he went by Bob. Um, or Bobby, sometimes I'd hear him called by some people.
Hmm.
But he also had nicknames for everybody. I don't know if he had a nickname, but if my uncle was alive, I'm sure he probably would come up with something. He
What do you
probably could
call?
tell.
Did you have nicknames for you kids?
Oh, yes. He called me Roan, Roan, like the
Hmm.
color
Oh
roan.
yeah, because of your hair.
Yeah,
Like
I
no.
was I was little Roan.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure what he called my other siblings. I just kind of held on to my nickname because that was always so meaningful to me, to
Well, here's
remember
to your
that.
father, Bob. Yeah,
Yeah,
a good man.
very good.
Well, he'd be proud of you.
Well,
I know he
thank
would be.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
job. You did a good job.
I
Yeah.
hope so.
I think sometimes as a parent, we wonder if our kids will be okay.
Yeah,
And he doesn't have to worry about that. You did okay. Yeah, good job.
yeah. I
Mm.
have a wonderful mother, and
Yes,
she
and
just,
you're going to go
yeah.
out to have on Mother's Day. You're going to go take her out to eat or something. Does she live
Well,
far away?
she's like probably 7 to 8 hours away. So we don't get to see each other except a couple times, usually a year, but we've been trying to go out more often as she gets older, and she's been pretty healthy. She still lives alone.
Does she know
Um,
you wrote this book?
yes, she does.
Has she? Does she have the book?
She does not yet. I was going to send it to her for Mother's Day, but I need to get some more copies. So I have to wait May. I think Mother's Day is May 9th, and the book doesn't actually release until May 12th. So,
Oh, so okay,
yeah.
so this is this whole publishing juggernaut where everybody gets the
Yeah.
pre-orders so that when they hit, you can be on a bestseller list, and then it kind of jumps it and like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
doubt that, but
Well, and that's exactly what they do. They'll get it on a list, and it'll be like Amazon's inspirational children's list, and they'll do it all, and they'll hit in the same week, and then all of a sudden, and by the way, it won't take many copies, right, to get on the Amazon children's inspirational story, maybe like 100 copies. And then once that happens, people go, "Oh, I might get that." And then libraries start to get it. And by the way, many funeral homes are interested in books like that because they have a lot of
right.
children who are wondering, right? So
Yes.
your suffering will be used to help many many others, and that'll be a
That's
balm.
my hope.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that is my hope.
Well, my goodness gracious, my time is flying away. What have I not asked that I need to get out of here? What do we? I've talked about
Um,
the book. You can go to Amazon to the description below. That's on the link. So
yep.
go to the link, people. And the
And
sun came up. Yeah, that's the name of the
yeah.
book. Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you don't want to get it from Amazon, I know I've seen it on Barnes and Noble.
Mm,
I don't know if they have it locally, but they'd probably have to order it. But it is on the Barnes and Noble website. It's on Books a Million
mm,
and Walmart. And there's a site called bookshop.org.
mm.
So it's out there. I haven't
If
seen the
we zoom
price
in, if
change, but
if we zoom into the back, will we see like 10 copies on the shelf behind you? That's my question. No.
no.
All right. All
You
right.
you you might see five.
Hmm.
I think they sent me five to start with.
If I order a
So
copy, can I get a signed version? Does that work?
you bet.
Okay.
I need to kind of arrange some things, but I haven't done it yet since the book release isn't coming in. I'm going to be out of town here, but um, I'm hoping to do some signings. I want to contact some places like Crossroads.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't know what Barnes and Noble's policies are, so I'll have to talk to them. But I'm hoping to do some book signings, and I may be actually. Um, I contacted Farmer Brown's out down by Lenox.
Hmm.
They do storytellings, and I may actually do one down there.
These are local
We'll kind of
stores.
see.
So these are
Yeah,
local bookstores. So you're going to go see, and maybe if you can do some book signings or whatever, right?
yeah,
And you
yeah.
can now, when you do that, you have to have what's your artist outfit? What's your author outfit? Have you thought about that? Well, you have
Well,
like now, if it was me, I'd have this pipe that I'd have up, but you can't, I don't know. Where you have some sort of geometric glasses, where you have your hair in a French bun. I mean, have you thought about
The
what you're?
librarian look. My hair's not long enough to do
Yeah,
that,
you have
so
some sort of a thing, and you look very studious, fashionable, obviously fashionable.
well, I
You said
figured
you
I
you
should
said
wear
in your
something sunny.
bio way back in that you were what did it say, the queen of your class in college? Is that
Oh,
right?
no, I was a homecoming queen
Homecoming
at
queen. That's what it was, right?
USF, which is now it was SFC back then, so now
Hmm.
I'm dating myself, but
Hmm.
yeah,
Did
that
you
was
get a
a
tiara for that? Did they give you a crown?
I think I did have one, but I think I had to give it back.
Oh,
They're
whatever.
probably still using it. I don't know.
All righty. It's a collectible. It went to the museum. Hmm.
Yeah, I
Okay.
won't tell you what year that was though.
No, no.
So,
Here's the thing. Don't do that, because if you do, and then you say that makes you old, then there are people who are older saying, "Well, that's an insult. You're just a kid still, right?"
right, right.
So, no, you're good. You're good, Mary. What a pleasure. Now, did I cover everything? Now, we sent out some questions in advance.
You
I know
did.
you still get one good question to ask me, one question, and one before we get to that question. Are there other things that you want to talk about in our time together?
Um, I think everybody should know that it's a faith-based book. And so, one of the things that was important to me to share in the end was what you might have heard different names for it, but this is called. You aren't going to be able to see that, but it's called the Colors of Salvation.
Mm-hmm.
And if a child gets to the point and they say, I want to ask Jesus into my heart, then the book at the end kind of tells them how to do that, with an adult so that they can understand. And I also have some little bracelets. So if I have some signings, I'll have those little bracelets, and the
Mm.
bracelets have a little bead for each color
Mm.
of the
I've
colors
seen
of
that.
salvation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes hear it called the Romans Road or
I've
something
heard.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just thought, that was kind of something that could go with. I have some little sticker figures of the main character and some different things and bookmarks and that. But
I was
I think,
every once in a while I'll talk this to people about this. I said, well, I know it was a service I did for a woman who was she was in her middle 50s when she passed, but she was very childlike. I don't know what her disability was,
mhm,
but everybody was sad and there was no need. She was absolutely a joyous person. And I said, what's the greatest thing, if you want to be a believer, Jesus said to be like a little kid.
mhm.
They're the ones who seem to know how to do it better than the rest of us.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I remember driving one of my kids home, and it was from a Bible study or something, and she was asking about this. I said, okay, wait till we get home because I'm driving right now. And I might have even pulled the car over. She was so interested. And I said, okay, let's just take care of this right now. And we did. And she just went, okay. And she was just remember that. She was just all of a sudden she needed to figure out who Jesus was, and she knew what it was, and she wanted to take care of that
Mhm.
right now. And
Yeah.
my job was done. Hey, I'm kind of a marginal father at the very best.
Oh
So I
no.
just immediately said, here you go. Here's the good father. And now, my job here is done. So, okay,
You know,
one more question. You got one more
okay.
question. You can ask me any question. Be careful. You only get one question. Only
Well, let's
one.
see.
Yeah.
No, I guess I would ask you kind of about all your speaking that you do and everything. How do you maintain a calm presence when you do that? When you're in front of a big audience, like I know you are at times,
Hmm.
um, how do you how did you get to that point where you felt comfortable enough that you know
Hmm.
weren't like getting sick before you had to go talk to them,
Right.
because that is something that I feel that I would like to do at some point. But I don't, I've been in front of groups of kids, but I haven't been, in front of a lot of adults, to feel comfortable about speaking. And
Well, I think it's a great question, and it speaks to the point of you're comfortable talking to students because you know the subject matter and you are comfortable with them. And so you are speaking with a certain authority, and the authority is your own experience. And we know this is true. It's kind of magical. I don't know.
yeah,
It's almost bizarre. But when you just start telling a story, everybody just stops because everybody likes stories.
yeah,
And you'll stand in front and you say, it was a beautiful day. It was around Memorial Day, and we were going to go ahead a whole summer. And, I never thought about this, but we had two flat tires. Now, what are the odds of two tires going flat? And then my grandparents came, and I found out something that changed my whole life.
yeah,
My father had died. Well, they're just in like right now. I mean, you
hmm,
got them, Mary.
right,
And you say, so my whole life has been a reverberation of that sunny spring afternoon. And this is what I did, and this is what I did. But really, what the reason I'm here today is I've come to realize that the sun rises and tragedies continue. And if I didn't share what I learned from my tragedy, then I will have wasted the opportunity.
right,
And then you'll just share your story. And
exactly,
people will go, oh, that is nice. And you're talking to the person who's listening.
yeah,
And you'll look out and you'll see some guy's looking at his watch. Well, whatever. That guy gets to live his life. And this guy's looking at his phone. But there's going to be one person who looks up and goes, and you look at them. And then you look at this guy over here and this woman back here. And anytime you speak to a group of, I'll say 100, 1% is who you're really there for.
right,
And at least one person will come up and say, wow, I guess I needed to hear you today.
yeah, yeah,
And so we had a guest on who was a stand-up comedian, and he said something, Jeff, you're not there to get laughs, you're there to give laughs. And his story was that he had these two little boys, and they were just laughing and laughing and laughing at his comedy act. And afterwards, he said, I thank you so much. Since their parents died, it has been really hard, but this is the first time they've laughed. So you are giving.
yeah,
And then when you give, well, then it's not about you. And if it's not
right,
about you, it's a freeing thing. It's not about me. Here you go. I don't. You can do whatever you want. That's not my responsibility. All I
yeah,
have to do is tell the story.
exactly,
And I think that you will absolutely do a great job. And of course, you're a person of faith, so you'll have a little prayer with God ahead of time, and He will speak through you, and the deal is done. And
right,
you don't make the seeds germinate, and you don't make them grow. All you do is plant them, and that's exactly what you are doing.
yep,
Yeah, so we had a chance to talk over coffee a number of months ago, and you asked some questions about writing a book, and you've answered the call, and you've inspired people who are watching this right now and saying, huh, well, she doesn't seem like she's super special. And wait a minute, he wrote a book? Well, see, you can join our club. Anybody's invited. All you got to do is answer the call to do what God made you to be. And maybe that is to tell your story in written form.
yeah,
And why not? Okay, so what do I have to say? Now, I have to say things like like and subscribe, comment, ring the notification bell. These are all the things we do to increase our audience. And again, as we said, I wrote this down. and the sun came up. You can get details. The link to her book is on Amazon, and it's in the description box below. And please buy it. It's a good way to celebrate a good life well lived and a great and courageous storyteller. For Mary
Thank you.
Grace Johnson, I'm Jeff Gould. God bless.
Thanks, Jeff.